G'day guys, so I needed to have some low poly trees. These were originally going to be just a sort of stand-in until I could get an artist later, but I kind of like them and think I'll keep working on them. So these are really quick to generate. It's all procedural, so you can fiddle with the settings, randomize it however you like. I think they worked out really well. If you want to know how to make them, you can follow along with me. Okay, so I'm going to be making these trees in an existing project, but you don't need any of this stuff. This is just my voxel world I've been working on in the earlier parts of this series. If you're just looking at the trees, we can ignore all this. Let's go to the center. And the first thing we need to do is make our new custom mesh. So I'm going to add a child node here, and it's going to be a mesh instance 3D, which will hold a mesh for us. And this is going to be our tree leaves mesh. This is going to be in two separate meshes, one for the leaves and one for the trunk. So let's add a script to this. Tree leaves mesh, that works for me. Now, the very first thing is I'm going to copy and paste this stuff in, because what we need to do is we are making an icosphere. So I don't know if you can see this here. It's a sphere all made of triangles. I've grabbed some math that does this for us, which I don't really understand, so I'm not going to be explaining it. And the cool thing is we can sort of make a basic one and then subdivide it, subdivide it, subdivide it, just doing really simple math. Well, it could be simple, like I said, I don't understand it, but I'm going to copy and paste it in. First function here, which is going to generate the icosphere for us. So it's going to just generate all these vertices and then put them into polygons. And so what we'll need to do is we'll need to have our vertices array, our polygons array, and we also need to make this custom class here, this polygon. And that's just this right here. So we'll create a new polygon, and it just stores these three vertices. Now, I'll just get you exactly on here so you can see it all. This all will be downstairs at the bottom of the video, and you can check and copy and paste from there. So there's a generate icosphere, and you can see it's just sort of doing this little bit of math and then making a bunch of these vertices. Like I said, I can't really explain it. I don't know it. I copied and pasted this from somewhere else. So we've got generate icosphere. Since we're copying and pasting now, let's do all the copying and pasting. There's another function which will subdivide that mesh, so sort of make it more complicated. As you can see here, we go from this one to this one to this one. So basically divides those triangles up. So it needs this integer, how many subdivisions. So let's add that. And that one, we'll make it an export subdivisions. And we'll start at 1. And it also needs this extra function get mid. So let me paste that in as well. Okay, so those three functions there, let me stop on here for a moment. So this one will subdivide it, and that needs this get mid function. Okay. Now what we need to do is make it so we can generate these meshes in the editor. So let's add the at tool function. Let's add a button, export var gen mesh, which will be a bool, and in process, if gen mesh, then gen mesh equals false, and we will go and generate. Okay, so the first thing we'll do in generate is we'll just reset vertices and reset polygons. So we can do it again and again and not clog it up. And then we'll just go generate icosphere. We will subdivide the icosphere. And then the final thing is that we haven't done yet is generate the mesh. So let's make that one now. Okay, so this is also going to add the noise. So let's add those up here as well. So we're going to have an RNG, a random number generator, and we're also going to have a noise, which will be a fast noise light instance. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to reset those up here as well, just because sometimes I find when we're working in the editor, these don't get set up properly at the start. And so it'll just reset them all at the start, and we'll add the seed later. I want to get this generating first. Oops, one more thing we need to add is a surface tool And surface tool is something I didn't know about when I made the earlier voxel meshes and stuff. It's a little tool that Godot provides to help us make meshes. So we're going to use it in this one. So what we do is we just go surface tool and new surface tool dot new. We're going to go surface tool dot begin and say we're going to go mesh dot primitive triangles. All right, so we've got to loop through every polygon now and set its size. So let me add this. So get each vertex and we add it to the surface tool as a vertex. And then we're going to go surface tool dot index and surface tool dot generate normals, which will make the light work off it properly. Oh, and what index does is index is just like a little efficientizing thing. You can go read the instructions. What it does is it just any sort of vertices that exist twice, it will clean them up. All right, so then we just go create the mesh equals surface tool dot commit. We'll finalize that. We're going to go self dot mesh. So since we are a mesh instance 3D, we have a mesh over here. And so then we just take that mesh and we apply it to self dot mesh, which is, remember, since we are a mesh instance 3D, the mesh just goes straight in there. So we apply that mesh and then it should work. Now, since we're doing this tool stuff, we're working in editor, we have to do project reload current project. And now we should be able to just press our gen mesh button and ta-da, there we go. And if we increase our subdivisions and generate again, you see we get more subdivisions. Let's put that in a wireframe. You can see it's a nice icosphere. Add another subdivision, gets more dense. Add another subdivision. It's actually, did that work? That's odd. Oh, okay, it's doing a weird thing where on the odd numbers, we're seeing through it. I don't know why that is, and I'm not too worried about it right now because I'm happy with 2 for far away and I'm happy with 4 for close up. So I'm not going to look at that. If anyone works it out for me, let me know. All right. So the next thing is, that is a sphere. We want like a nice wobbly tree. So we're just going to add a bit of noise and we'll use 2D noise for this. So I've got my fast noise already. We're already generating it. So what we need to do is here, what we'll do is for each point as we're doing it, I will grab a point and we will find the normal, which is sort of the vector pointing away from it. And we will move it sort of in or out on that vector. And the way we do that, so what we'll do is we'll get our normal first. Normal is the vertex dot normalized. And so what that does is basically at the moment it could be any length. We're making it into something with a magnitude of 1. And then we'll just go our noise value equals noise dot get noise 2D, and we'll just go normal dot x, normal dot x, normal dot y, and then our vertex equals the vertex plus, and we'll go the normal times that noise value, and we'll see what happens. And you see it sort of shifted a tiny bit. It's not very much. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to add a multiplier to that. So I'll just make that multiplier. Let's just make it say 50 for now. And we'll just multiply that by n and multiply that by n. And that will just make it much more visible. And that, you may notice, may be a little bit too visible. So what we can do is make that say 20. And now we're looking a lot more tree-like. Now I'm getting the same one every time. What I'm going to do is just make sure the seed is changed every time. So for now, we'll just go noise.seed equals rng dot Randy range. Let's just go 0 to 99999. And so now we'll get a different one every time. Good for testing. And you see we're getting all these, and these are pretty pretty cartoony tree-like guys. So I think that's pretty good actually. Now I'll show you a quick trick because you may like this smoothing effect. That's pretty standard, but what I'm going to do is do this little trick. We're going to go surface tool dot set smooth group and set that to -1. And actually I think that should go up here. And what that does is gives us this nice faceted look. So there's no smoothing done with those normals now. And so it gives us that nice sort of polygonal style, which is quite popular. And what you might do if you're not sure you want to have that, you could put a little, wrap it in a bool and have it as an option in here. But I'm just going to have that always turned on because I quite like that. And one more thing is, of course, right now it's white, which is very ugly. We'll go material override. So that's our material on our mesh instance 3D. And we'll just go equals and we'll go generate random material. And I'll just make a little function for doing that for me. And so we'll just make a material, which will be a standard material 3D. And then we'll set its albedo to a random color. And what we'll do is we'll go color. And so the red, rng.randf range. So this goes from 0 to 1. And for red, we actually want quite a big range of red because sort of more red gives it a more sort of autumnal look. So we'll go all the way from 0 up to 0.8. Now green, obviously, usually going to have a high level of green in a tree. So we'll go 0.3 all the way up to a maximum of 1. And for blue, generally don't have much blue in your tree color. So we'll make that to go to only a max of 0.2. And of course you can fiddle with that. It might even be a good idea to put the options up here to fiddle with them. But that's what I fiddled with and sort of found when I was mucking around. And why isn't that working? I forgot to return the material. And there we go. So every time we get a sort of tree-like color. And so if you didn't want those autumnal colors, you'll just drop the red down a little bit. But I think that gives us a nice little, for this kind of shape, I guess, what oak tree, whatever, I think that's a good range of colors. All right, so I'm happy with that. The next thing we need to do is add the tree trunk. And that's going to be almost the same. So what we'll do is, well first, what we'll do is we'll go add child node and it's another mesh instance 3D. And we'll call this the tree trunk mesh. Turn this off for now. Tree trunk mesh. And this is going to be almost the same. So I'll just copy and paste it for now. So there's some stuff we won't need. We won't be actually manually doing the vertices and polygons. We won't need divisions. I don't think we need noise. I'll leave it for now just in case. Can't remember. Generate mesh, so we don't need that anymore. Don't need to generate the icospheres anymore. And so this part will be gone. And all the icosphere stuff will be gone. Get mid will be gone. We'll still generate random materials. We don't need the polygons. Okay, so when we generate this mesh, we're going to use another new thing. We're going to go, let's see, it's var data tool equals mesh data tool, which is another little tool we get in here. We're going to go, surface tool. I'm going to add that then. What we're going to actually do is make a mesh. And we'll just go equals a cylinder mesh. And so we can get that by default. And then we've just got a whole bunch of settings. So I'll drop that in here. And so what we've got is radial segments. And that's, if you can imagine looking at it from the top, there's a circle. That's how many polygons that we made of. So a 4 from the top, you can imagine that'll be like a diamond, basically 5. It'll be a 5-sided. And so the higher that is, the more round it will be. Now I'm doing low poly. 4 to 8 is probably pretty good. We got the height, pretty obvious. Now I'm storing the height up here. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get to a bit later, but we need to be able to reference that. So, and we won't have access to the mesh later. So the top radius, that's the radius of the top of the trunk. And then we'll take the bottom radius and we'll make that go from a start, it's going to be the same size as the top and then a bit bigger. So usually the bottom will be a bit taller, and the top and bottom cap, we're just turning them off. The top of the cylinder, bottom of the cylinder, you won't see them because one's on the ground, one's in the middle of the bush, so you won't see it. There's a few things we've got to do here. All right, so what we'll do, I'm just going to bring this surface tool stuff down here to keep it. Okay, and I could just pass the mesh straight through like it is now. That would work, but I'm going to run it through the surface tool just so I can make that sort of faceted look, because I don't really know how to do it with just the mesh. Surface tool does it for me. So we'll keep this, and then we just have to go surface tool dot commit and overwrite the mesh with that. Oh, I nearly forgot before we do that. Surface tool dot create from mesh. Got to definitely have that. And now we have our lovely tree trunks. And you see we're not putting like curves and stuff in it. They're really simple. There's definitely more you could do with this, but I'm starting off doing these pretty quick and dirty. And one more thing, I'll just shift these up. And the way we're going to do that is we just at the end go the position equals vector 3, 0, and then y is going to be the mesh height times 0.5. So we're going up by half the height. And let me put that back down there, and then we can do that. And let's set the colors. And so we definitely want more red for this. We're making sort of browny colors. For the green, it's going to be 0.15 to 0.3. And blue about the same is what I found works well. And so we're getting all sort of browny colors now. Oh, I'm getting an error. So it didn't like me using my array mesh height here. So what I'll do, I'll just refer to the height, which we've already set. And so that's working happily now. All right, so the one final thing we need to do is I'm going to make one super class, which will hold these guys and generate both, and obviously stick the bush on the top. So let's do that. We go add another child node. Now this one is going to be a static body 3D because my trees aren't moving, and this will allow me to also add colliders and things like that later. So let's just call this a tree, and let's do a script for that tree. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to actually organize this stuff. So folder, tree, and so under tree we will add tree, the leaves, and the trunk. And in here we just need to do a bit of on ready var, and it's going to be tree trunk script equals preload, and let's do tree leaves script preload as well, and then let's chuck in the tree leaves script there, and the mesh script, the tree trunk script there. Let's also make this a tool, and let's go export gen tree and make that a bool, so then I can do this. If gen tree equals false, print gen tree, and let's go, and that's having an error because I can't see this yet because I need to reload. So I'll just hide these guys for now and generate the tree, and you can see it's saying gen tree, so it's working. And all we need to do, generate, and the first thing we need to do, since it's all going to be a child of this tree, we have to clear the children. And in get children, and that's so when we make a new one, it will delete the old ones first. So we remove that child, and then we queue free that guy to delete it properly. And I need to have my RNG in here. So var RNG equals random.new. And so the trunk, really simple, just tree trunk script dot new, and we'll just go trunk dot generate, and then add child trunk. Before we do this, we just have to make sure we're actually generating that and not just printing generate. All right, and go. And there we go. No worries. And then we just do pretty much the same thing for the leaves. We just say leaves. Tree leaves script. Let's give that a go. And you see it's doing that thing. It's invisible. It's because we're doing the level 1 subdivision. So what I'll do is I'll just pass that through here. Leaves.subdivision equals 2 subdivisions. There we go. Just have to put it up higher now. And the way we do that is just leaves.position.y plus equals the trunk.height. And there, now we have pretty random trees. Those trunks are probably a bit thick. Let's make them a bit smaller. So let's just make this 0.05 to 0.2. And the bottom to, let's say, 0.35. Oops. And there we go. So the first thing I would do is probably make this a bit more complicated and also give, I would love some different options with the tree top, whether they have like a triangle ones or not. So I might put in a few different options for that. But for now, this makes me some really lovely trees really quickly. And so hopefully that works out well for you guys as well. Let's have one last look at what I actually did with them. So I'm generating my terrain now, and I just laid them out using 2D noise and then found the sort of highest point to drop them on. And so you can see them being dropped in now. There we go. So I think they came out looking really good. I did sort of cheat and do one quick thing before I stuck them in here, or while I was putting them in here. I thought I wanted to have some branches. So you can see what I've done is just put in a few little cheeky, and that's just a second tree sort of growing. Like it's a second smaller one, just growing and put up there and put on an angle. So what I did is just over a certain size, I added a second tree. I don't think it's fantastic, but I think from a distance it looks pretty good. So yeah, that's my trees. I hope you guys get some good use out of that. I'm pretty sure I will come back and make these a bit more complex later, but for now, just to quickly and dirtily get a bunch of trees and some forest, I think that works really well. Right, I'm waffling now. Thanks for your time, guys. See you later.